Well, that is our theme song, and that means our show's about to begin. That means it's 2 p.m. Eastern time. That's New York time for y'all. Here's the deal. If you're not checking in on the Facebook, this is PALS, by the way. If you're not checking in on the Facebook on the live stream, you're not seeing my buddy Jovi dancing to our theme song. So I think if you haven't checked in on Facebook, you should check in on Facebook. But if you're traveling and you can't get to the Facebook, you can always check out Professionals and Animal Lovers Show on talkradio.nyc. And if you are able to check it on Facebook, it's Talking Alternative Broadcasting. That voice that you may recognize from Friday morning, well, that's my voice. I'm Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, host of Philanthropy and Focus, and co-host of this here Professionals and Animal Lovers Show. Each week, we're going to get together at 2 p.m. and shine a light on the need for advocacy in the animal world, in the animal kingdom. This isn't a situation where I know all that much about, to be honest with you. I'm learning constantly, and I'm getting exposed to videos and information that I had no awareness about. So if you're at a high level animal advocate, very well informed like my pal Valerie, check in with us. If you're like me and you really don't know what you're in for, get on the roller coaster, sit next to me and enjoy the ride, because I'm learning a bunch. And Val, they like us. They really like us. They brought us back. This is episode number 2 of the Professionals and Animal Lovers Show. And I just want to tell you who we are, what we're about, and then I'll let Val, well, the Long Island Railroad is here. It comes in and visits with me throughout many of my shows and many of my meetings. And I was told if there's an elephant in the room, name it. So that's the Long Island Railroad you hear behind me. So look, this show is all about focusing on professionals who love animals, care about animals, and nonprofit organizations, charities who are focused on animal advocacy. So we want to amplify the message that the bond between animal lovers is incredibly strong. We've seen it. And Valerie will tell you kind of where it all came from and what this show really came from in a second. But we want to support one another in business and build compassionate networks together. So everyone wins, especially the animals win. We will achieve and continue to create community by hosting this weekly show, and we will bring on organizations that focus on protecting, sheltering, and advocating for animals, and obviously the professionals who care about animals. Look, I said it last week, I'll say it again. I'm super excited to be doing this, Val, with you, my comrade, my pal. Valerie Heffron, what's up? What are you doing?
So first of all, I wanted to wish everyone who celebrates and observes the Jewish holidays, along with Jovi. Here's this little yarmulke, a Lashana Tova.
Lashana Tova.
A sweet new year to us all, especially the animals. Okay, that's not going to stay on.
This animal is really decked out. Like, did he come with all this stuff? It's like, like when you buy like when my daughters have a Barbie doll, it comes like all the gear. Did he come with a yarmulke and a
Did not.
He did not.
He did not. But before I forget to even mention, my name is Valerie Heffron. It is an absolute pleasure to have our guest Tina Traster on today, who is an award-winning journalist, a filmmaker, and her documentary Catnip Nation. She's been generous enough to say that she's going to give out 10 copies, DVD copies, to the first 10 people who share this podcast. So if you're one of the first 10, we're going to PM you, or we'll find you, and we're going to ask you for your address, and we'll have them shipped out. We'll have it shipped out to you so you can enjoy this incredible documentary for free. Other thing I have to mention is our company, Work Be Done, a relatively new startup company. It's a gig and marketplace company. It sponsors this show along with Tommy D. And the reason we're doing this is because we want to really highlight compassionate people who are in business. They have a for-profit company and or a rescue 501c advocacy group. So our goal is to get people and support them who we want them to be successful because they're compassionate towards the animals, and to also, of course, get support and garner attention for great causes. So without any further ado, Tommy, would you please take the great pleasure of introducing our fabulous guest?
Gina, we're psyched to have you here, but I am going to do kind of reading a little bit to kind of set the stage. So I mean, I watched the trailer like 7 times this morning. I don't know if that's equivalent to watching the actual documentary, so I do need to watch the full doc at some point soon. But here's what I learned. Would you risk arrest, that is, for a cat, a stray cat? Would you disassociate yourself from your longtime political allies, and upset your status quo to protect cats? Stray cats, again, this isn't even your house cat. This isn't your own family pet. Would you do this? Well, there's a lot more to be said, but the heroes, that is heroes of Catnip Nation, have done all of these things and many, many more to take care of the cats who really, as we know, cannot take care of themselves when they're on the street. Tina's going to tell us probably some statistics shortly about how many cats. I mean, the numbers that I heard on this on the trailer were insane. I think it was more cats that live on the streets than actually are house pets, if I'm not mistaken. So Tina is a socially conscious, award-winning journalist, author, and filmmaker, and her award-winning documentary, Catnip Nation, was co-produced and edited by Lenin Narcessian. Now, they made this documentary to shed a light on the crisis of feral cats. So trap, neuter, and release is one solution to deal with this issue, but there are many individuals that are out there fighting and protecting on behalf of these four-legged friends that can't protect themselves. Tina, welcome to the show. Welcome to PALS. Welcome virtually to my attic, which is where my home base is. Oh, is that Jovi?
It's Joe. Welcome.
Jovi is saying welcome as well. Tina, welcome to the show. How are you?
Well, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate being here. It's great to be here with fellow animal lovers. That is always that's always a privilege right there. And that's always a guarantee that I know that I'm in good company. So thank you for having me on the show today.
You're welcome.
I want to talk about the crisis of feral cats. I want to talk a little bit about TNR. I want to talk about Catnip Nation, and I want to talk about our nation in general. Let's start with feral cats. If you ask 10 people on the street, what's a feral cat? What's a cat colony? Or have you ever heard of TNR, trap, neuter, return? I really think that you'd get maybe a 30% response of people who know what that is. And if they do know what it is, there's also a good chance that they're probably 50 years old or over. We have crisis in this country that it is not unique to this country. It's a crisis of the world, which is that we have an overpopulation of cats. But unlike geese or deer, we're talking about an animal that lives in that nether world, or can live in that nether world between domestication and wild. But unlike most wild animals, those of us who live with cats, love cats, and those of us who have cats that fill our lives recognize the pain and the hardship when it is brought to our attention, when there is perspective given that there are cats living in large groups from 10 to 60 in places in every single village, in every single town, in every single state across the country. They start as 2, they reproduce, the reproduction goes unchecked, and they end up literally forming what are called colonies behind supermarkets, along rivers, in back of developments, in condos, anywhere where they can carve out a small piece of the world for themselves. In some circumstances, they fend for themselves in these colonies, and they aren't going to live very long because they're depending on nature. But what has happened, and this is decades old, this is not something new. People pass by these colonies because in general, these colonies are where we live. It's where we throw out garbage. It's where it's where we habituate, and therefore so do they. Just as cats have done for 10,000 years. That is in fact how they became domesticated, by living side by side with us. So in these feral colonies across the country, often and inevitably, somebody with a heart for animals sees them, knows that they are there. And this is where the slippery slope begins, because at the very most superficial level, somebody out of the goodness of their heart will start feeding them, and maybe giving them water, and that might be enough to keep them alive, and to help them survive. But people who end up in this world typically eventually hear about or understand trap, neuter, return, which is to take the cats 2 at a time, 4 at a time, however they can be trapped, to have them fixed, to have them vaccinated, and then to return in place so that they can live out their lives with some dignity. In the ideal world, the way TNR works is that a colony it's almost like it has an invisible border. And if nobody can reproduce, the colony, in theory, will age out. The cats, will be able to thrive as best they can because they're partially being cared for. And eventually they'll live a shorter life on the street, as they tend to, maybe 8 or 10 years old, unlike, say, a house cat that can live twice as long. And that's sort of their best fate, so to speak.
Can I just ask you a quick question, Tina? I read a stat the other day, and it basically said that most cats that are born outside, so now we're talking kittens, don't survive until they don't even live a year. Do you think that's correct?
I think that can be correct. I think that if the mother abandons them and they're not being fed, they can't survive on their own. I think if, it used to be that the spring was kitten season, and
Right.
now the rescues will tell you that kittens are born
All year round.
all year round. So if a kitten is coming into the world, in the cold, harsh weather, and let's say, we won't even get into climate change, but look at all the unpredictability of the climate to add into this.
And to your point earlier, when you were naming some of the places that are common to host, if you will, these colonies of cats, a landfill is another one. And, that is actually what kind of reeled me in to the animal advocacy world, was the landfill cats of Oceanside, New York, which was one of 3 highlighted areas, locations in your Catnip Nation documentary. Tommy, real quick, how are we doing on time right now?
Yeah, we're about to go to a break now, Val, but what we can do is, why don't we set up when we come back? Because what I'm going to do at the break, for those of you listening on Facebook, is I'm going to share the website. So Tina, I'm going to share passionriver.com/Catnip Nation, so people can get a check out on that. Is that the best place to share?
It's the best place that's our distributor, but the best place to look at it would just be catnipnation.com on our website.
Perfect. Okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to share that. So Val, you're teasing everybody with this whole thing with what was the last area? Where was it again?
Oceanside, New York.
And what was it? Landfill?
Landfill, yeah. Yep.
So listen, this is going to be when we come back. It'll be the story about the red kayak, a landfill, Oceanside, Long Island, New York. Tina Traster is here, Val is here, and your buddy Tommy D is here. This is Professionals and Animal Lovers Show. We'll be back in 90 seconds. Thanks, gang.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business, or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant. And on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you interested in having a better relationship with yourself, others, and God? Greetings. I'm your host, Dr. George Andow, for the show A Journey Through into Awareness. On my show, we journey into the awareness that the mind of God is the true seat of our personal consciousness. We join together each Monday at 7 p.m., so tune in on Talk Radio NYC.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
You know, I love our theme song. I feel like I'm meditating. I feel very chill, very zen here in my attic. Every Wednesday at 2 p.m. we'll be here. This is the Professionals and Animal Lovers Show. I'm Tommy D, co-hosting with Val, my buddy, my pal, Valerie Heffron, and Tina Traster is here. Before we jump right back into our conversation, which takes us through a red kayak, Oceanside, New York, and a landfill. That should be like the name of a band. I want to give a shout out on Facebook to Sandy Adelson Seafried. She says, hi, Jovi, Lashana Tova, Tika Tuvu. I'm sorry, Sandy, and I'm sorry to all my Jewish friends if I screwed that up too bad. So she says, I shared it on Facebook. She says, love the show. All my ferals are TNR. Yes, she's telling us this. Yes, I am over 50, LOL. Shout out to you, Sandy. Thanks for checking in on the show. We appreciate you. Happy New Year, Lashana Tova. And also, what I would say is, I think we owe you a DVD, so that we'll have to, we'll take care of that. We'll take care of the logistics after the show. Welcome back, gang. This is PALS. Each week we're amplifying the message on animal advocacy and those who are on the front lines. Valerie, where were we? We were in Oceanside. What's going on?
Okay, so I'll be brief, but first of all, hi, Sandy. Thank you so much. Myself and now my husband and fiance, we're minding our own business. We were blissfully unaware of these horrific situations unfolding around us locally. And then a viral video caught my attention of a man who used to work at the Oceanside landfill. His name is Stanley Lombardo. And it was a plea in the dog days of summer, July something, to protest because he had been caring for a colony of cats for like 15 years because he worked there, and he even went on his days off, even like on Christmas, and he would feed them and give them fresh water twice a day. So after he retired in January, he had a political falling out, and we always try to emphasize this, that animal welfare is 100% political. These decisions are rendered from your elected officials. So imagine this, you care for anything, I don't care if it's a plant, for 15 years, and then one day you're suddenly told you're not allowed to do that anymore. You're not allowed to come onto this property, and even though at that time it was public and open to the public property, you're not allowed to feed your cats, you're not allowed to give them water, you're not allowed to see them, or you're gonna get arrested. So that blew me away. And I went to a protest over there, and I met Diane Madden, who's a huge animal advocate, and she just sucked me in. She made me realize this isn't over after this protest, and she was so right. But fortunately, this story also caught the attention of Tina Traster, who was in the middle of producing and directing this very documentary. So she added this particular plight to that repertoire of stories that she needed to convey in her documentary. So Tina, take it away. I get, oh, the kayak, I'm sorry. So the kayak, well, kayak is, I kayaked over to this property after we were told we were shut out. The public wasn't allowed to go check on these animals. Everyone was freaking out, you know, are they being fed? Do they have fresh water? So I did risk arrest, but I looked into it and I was told there was a $250 fine, which I was willing to do. And they actually have me in the trailer, you know, kayaking over. That's pretty funny.
Well, what you say in the film is, am I willing to get arrested and go to jail to save one cat? Yes, I am. And you know, the thing is that Valerie, you and I, we lived through Stanley's crisis, which became a crisis for all of us in real time. You know, we saw how this man was parted from a group of cats that he considered to be his own, and what it did to him, and how it wore him down, and how it got him to change political parties and invest new hope in a different candidate, because he understood that this is political. And you know, that is actually, you know, when I tell people about this film, I say this film is not really about cats as much as it's about people in politics and people and the law. In all three of our main stories that we tell, the protagonist, or the pair of protagonists, in the case of our we have a Kansas couple, an elderly couple from Kansas. In all three cases, these good Samaritans who were just going along and doing something that was so obscure, which was feeding cats, a thankless job that you know, they never asked to be thanked for. And suddenly they find themselves in the political or legal fight of their lives.
Yep.
And they're willing to do it because they have so much conviction and so much heart invested in these creatures who, you know, are essentially, I mean, they're not wild animals completely, but these are not animals that sit on their couches at night. So effectively, these are people who are taking care of animals that are living outdoors. Now, I wanted to make a point about this, though. So on a global level, okay, what we have is an army of soldiers nationwide who are out there in the trenches fighting this fight. The fight is to on the one side is just to help these creatures survive, and on the other side,
Okay. Go ahead,
am I
Sally.
okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's to fend off all of the forces, the development pressure, the politician that doesn't get it, the neighbor that's pissy, the threat of poison, which is a real threat, all of these fights that they take on. But the thing that I want to say, and I think about this all the time because I myself got involved in activism too through this film for a time here in where I live, upstate New York. And what's missing, while we have an army of soldiers, what we don't have is a general. We do not have a leader, let's say a national voice, let's say a celebrity to carry the mantle.
Yeah.
Something or someone that is able to take the message to the masses.
Mhm.
Because the whole problem with our feral cat problem and feral cat crisis is that it's a crisis that does not exist in plain sight. That most people don't know about it because by their very nature, ferals are reclusive and they look to live, you know, beyond our sight line.
Yeah.
Yeah, they live in the shadows, they live behind buildings, they live under boardwalks as they do in New Jersey, which was the set one of three stories that we told. The hero in that instance was a gentleman named Ken Salerno, who had worked with a national organization, Alley Cat Allies, to erect a model TNR program. He encountered a change of political whims, a change of administration, and in one fell swoop, everything that was building to reduce the colony size, to feed the cats and to manage the colonies and keep everything under control, it was all taken down by
They cut
an
it off.
ordinance.
Didn't they threaten to
They
arrest
just-
them also?
Of course, there's
Yeah.
nobody in this world who, when they really stand up to the forces, that doesn't find their way interacting in the world of politics, policing,
Yeah.
the courts, condo disputes. So you're
Right.
dealing with condo boards, and so.
I just want to interject for 1 second, Tina, because everything that you're saying, I couldn't agree with everything you're saying more. But also, I think it's important to highlight for people who are not cat lovers, there's a lot of people who don't like cats. They're afraid of them, or they are allergic to them, or, whatever, or they're a dog person. People say I'm a dog person, right? Why should they care? I think it's imperative for those people to understand why TNR and the humane way to handle this situation is important, why you shouldn't just pour antifreeze into some cat food and put it in your backyard, besides the fact that that's a completely despicable act and illegal, at least here it is.
Illegal, yeah. And illegal.
But the thing,
Okay,
it's
so it's a humanitarian issue.
yeah,
Right,
and
but
it's also a cultural issue where I know some people, like, they're old school and they're like, well, that's how my grandfather handled it. They consider them to be like vermin. But in addition to all of that, first of all, as a taxpayer, you should understand that these programs are paid for. It's part of what your tax dollars go to, is to have this humane ability to contain and eliminate reproduction. The other thing, though, is that, cats are hunters. So the more the population explodes, the more that it's going to impact, they're going to find the turtle doves. They're going to find, the other creatures, if you will, that you actually want around in your backyard. So I feel the need to kind of explain that a little.
So I have a question, because again, I'm always going to be on the other side of this, not understanding what you guys understand. And I think some of our listeners are going to come from that same school of thought or that same angle, as I don't get it. So, and are we trying, because that last comment of Val, that we're concerned that they might go after other species, we're trying to protect these animals, it sounds like, but we're also trying to decrease their numbers at the same time. Is that right? So
humanely, yes.
Humanely. So the objective here, and we're gonna have to go to break in a second here, but the objective here is, let's protect these animals humanely. Let's keep them going, but at the same time, let's not let's do whatever we can to decrease the numbers, because then they become a threat to other animals, right? So there's a lot.
It's also not great for the environment. I mean, they have to go to the bathroom somewhere,
Right.
But I guess ultimately what I'm trying to say is yes, because if you think about it, if they can't reproduce, the population over time will automatically,
Right.
die down, so to speak.
Well, where is it? I want to talk numbers when we come back too. I want to know where it all starts. Is it like somebody just releases their animal they didn't want into? I mean, like, I don't.
It happens.
This isn't, we're not going back to Genesis here and like what happened in the beginning, but like, I want to talk about that. And when we come back, and I also, Tina, if you could, and Valerie, obviously, you know this information also, is the numbers. Let's talk about what we're actually looking at. And if you can even compare that to squirrels. I mean, I see squirrels in my neighborhood, but I wonder comparatively, are there as many cats as there, are there much more cats than there are squirrels? I don't know, Tina. I see, I'm confusing everybody, but I'm curious.
No, it's okay. Stats are fun. I like
That's
stats.
fun. All right. So when we come back, Professionals and Animal Lovers Show, we're going to be talking statistics about how many animals are out there and how many need our help. It's Tina Traster, Valerie Heffron, and your buddy Tommy D. Pals, right back.
Howdy. I am Joseph Franklin McElroy, host of the new podcast, Gateway to the Smokies. It airs on talkradio.nyc every Tuesday night from 6 p.m. to 7. Every episode is dedicated to memorable experiences in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park and surrounding areas. This show features experts and locals who expound upon the richness of culture, history, and adventure that awaits you in the Smokies. Tune in every Tuesday from 6 p.m. to 7 on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a cannabis enthusiast, a cannabis professional, or interested in entering the cannabis space? I'm Johnny Tsunami, and this is Planet Baco Lolo, a less taboo view. On our show, we will discuss the cannabis world through the perspective of various cannabis professionals. Tune in every Thursday evening, Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m., Talk Radio NYC, Planet Baco Lolo, a less taboo view.
Are you passionate about the conversation around racism? Hi, I'm Reverend Dr. TLC, host of the Dismantle Racism Show, which airs every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc. Join me and my amazing guests as we discuss ways to uncover, dismantle, and eradicate racism. That's Thursdays at 11 o'clock a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a small business trying to navigate the COVID-19 related employment laws? Hello, I'm Eric Sauver, employment law business law attorney and host of the new radio show, Employment Law Today. On my show, we'll have guests to discuss the common employment law challenges business owners are facing during these trying times. Tune in on Tuesday evenings from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc, now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Welcome back to PALS. And want to just, Val, I showed a picture during the break, you know, for those of you checking in on Facebook, I shared the screen. And I don't know if you caught that, but it was police in front of a cruiser out in Long Island. What was that? You shared that with me earlier today. What was that? What was that picture about?
That was just a display to show how above and beyond at that time, the political figures that were in the town of Hempstead went through. They showed up with police cars, armed people. They made a real stance in front of the gate, even though, again, that landfill was open to the public for decades. And not only that, I should mention that they also tried to tow people's cars. Like there was a very public parking lot across the street with like a Pet Supplies Plus and everything. And they sent tow trucks around and they warned us, if you park here, we have to tow you. That's town orders. They didn't even, want us to have our voices shown or heard at this protest. Really a despicable display, but hey, it helped us get that prior politician out. The saddest part about her documentary, in my humble opinion, is that the new person who came in promised to help with this situation and reunite this guy Stanley with his cats and everything. And she blew everybody off. Anyway.
Well,
happened.
So I have a bunch more questions for
Oh, we got her out too, by the way. I should let you know.
You're just look. Here's my bigger question, aside from the statistics, and I have a quick comment I want to make before we dive back in, but I don't understand why this is political. I'm going to be naive Nikki up here in the attic. I don't get it. Like, are we serious? Like, I understand politics to some extent, but like, are we really worried about, like, we're going to fight over cats? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Why don't you just let these people go help the cats? You guys can answer that in a second. I do want to make a quick shout out. We are a community of hosts here on the network on talkradio.nyc. Our buddy, our pal on the other side of the glass, Sam Leibowitz, made me a quick note here. Our friend and other host here on the show, Kevin Barbaro, has talked about Rocky's Rescue, which is a cat rescue Kevin has a show here on the network called Coffee Talk XL, and it's here on the network 8 p.m. on Tuesdays. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with Rocky's Rescue, but there's so many organizations out there, I'm sure, that are trying to do this good work. So let's talk to me again. Fill me in, Tina. Fill me in, Val. I mean,
Yeah,
statistics.
so I'll give you a little bit of an overview here. I have no idea how many squirrels there are, but the ASPCA says that there are as many ferals as there are domesticated cats, and they put that number around 90 million.
That's in the U.S.
That's the number that's used. That's the number that's, that's kind of widely quoted and
I mean, we know not to be silly. They're not taking a census. We understand that. It's some sort of estimate based on what they can figure out.
Well, it's funny you say that about census because, because in certain cities that have taken TNR very seriously, one of the things that they do is they do take a census and they know where the colonies are, so they track them. So census work actually does work. Let me try to segue though into your other question, which is, it's a really good question. Like why can't everybody just get on board with this, and why is it political? It seems counterintuitive, right? Okay, well, this is what I've learned both from making the film and from my own dive into activism on this front. First of all, just like my man on the street that comes from where there's a lack of understanding about the whole matrix of feral cats and where they fit in to the responsibilities of a community. This is not only the lowest hanging fruit, but it is something that politicians don't want to deal with. And when these situations arise, or they flame up over a particular situation in a town, they largely think that it is the stereotypical crazy cat lady who comes to complain about this. And politicians don't seem to recognize that their constituencies may very much be made up of people who care about animals, as was learned in Hempstead. Yes, the Hempstead story is really a political drama of Stanley's pain and how he redirected it and how he helped get the supervisor ousted, helped bring in a new one who also turned out to be disappointing. But there's a scene in the film, and not to give too much away, where Stanley says that he's in the what does he say, the spin cycle, where he just feels like he, unfortunately, unlike the other two stories, his story does leave us with the most sense of hopelessness. Now, here's the thing, okay? If you can't get traction from the town supervisor, from the village mayor, or even from a state governor, strictly on the basis of this being a humanitarian issue, the truth of it is that good activism, the opportunity for good activism when it comes to TNR and the feral cat problem, is actually to frame it and couch it as a fiscal issue. So let me give you just a quick snapshot on what I'm talking about. Okay, so you have to understand the whole ecosystem of how towns deal with their animals. So typically there's a shelter. Shelters are, as we know, they're overcrowded, they're dilapidated. Shelters in and of themselves in many towns like yours, Valerie, like mine, that they then in and of themselves are a problem. But unfortunately, they also have to be part of the solution to make TNR work, as do the animal control officers who have to be enlightened about TNR, as does the activists who have to be sophisticated enough to work with the town officials, as does, what you need is buy-in from the population to solve this problem kind of universally, town by town. But for town supervisors or people who are dealing with the fiscal side, okay, the question becomes, what is the best way to use tax dollars here? if you put it into neutering and spaying, which is pennies, okay, for any expenditure, it is pocket change. You reduce the populations in shelters, you reduce the problem on the ground, and you take away the need for any kind of euthanizing cats, which most people do not have an appetite for. So what town mayors and supervisors understand is that they're caught between a rock and a hard place. They don't want to be the people who have blessed mass euthanasia, and ferals by and large don't survive in shelters because they're not adoptable. So smart smart town leaders, smart municipal leaders, when they look, if they're presented with the numbers, they will understand that the small investment to back TNR, to get low cost spay neuter done, is actually a very smart fiscal decision, because in many towns like my own, it is in fact the town that is supporting the shelter.
I need to also interject on this, just because I'm so well versed now after 4.5 years of attending board meetings, watching every single board meeting, having rapport with some elected officials there, both prior and present. It's money, Tommy, in my humble opinion. And the town we're talking about that Stanley Lombardo is from, it's political, because they have a $5.5 million shelter there. That's the annual budget. Okay, this is not a little rinky-dink shelter. $5.5 million annual budget. $4.5 million goes to payroll. Okay, it's not going to the animals. And let me make this case also. When Stanley Lombardo had this political falling out, he had it with the then supervisor, who he was like a right-hand guy to. He was involved with this guy. He was part of the same political campaign. They lived like 2 blocks away from each other. They went to all of their weekly, mandatory club meetings and all of this. He helped him get elected. He helped him get reelected. He sold tickets to his fundraisers.
Stanley did this.
So when they had, yes, and so that was political, definitely. But even if it wasn't that, politicians, they use things like shelters to give jobs to their political friends and family. That is a fact. Instead of the jobs going to people who love animals, people who have certifications to care for animals, people who, are truly qualified experts, they give it to, their receptionists.
Cronies.
Correct. Cronyism. Yes. And that is one of the reasons we got behind then the opponent, because she called it out. She stood in front of the shelter. She talked about abuse, patronage hires. And then when she got elected, it turned out she was just using the animal vote to get elected, because animal lovers don't care about party lines, and that was a true horror show once she got elected. But guess what? Her opponent, when he was on his campaign trail, did the same exact thing. And then he won. And guess what's going to happen this November? It's absurd.
So it sounds like the shelter is, it's a part of the whole structure. And especially with that kind of, the dollars you're talking about right there.
Big money.
Your earlier point there, Tina, is we eliminate the need for the shelter. But honestly, it sounds like that's not good for insert county name. That's not good for that community, because it's jobs and whatnot, right? So there might be a whole.
Until you have a shelter like the one up here in Rockland County, Hightower, where that is literally imploding, that has recently had the DA rated for something. Nobody even.
But just imploding because they have such massive animals in there, and they don't have the capacity.
Yeah, they can't manage the load. And controlling the feral population is one piece of making the animal ecosphere more manageable, which is why in places where this works, Everybody is working together. Rescue
Right,
groups-
we're gonna revisit that. We've got to go to break.
When we come back though, I want to know where it works, because obviously you have experience where it is happening and it is working. So yeah, let's talk about that. Val, take us away.
Okay, we're gonna go to break. This is the PAL show. How's that?
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy and Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
People uninformed about menopause and how it impacts on your life. Hi, I'm Pat Duckworth, women's health strategist and host of the Hot Women Rock radio show, empowering women leaders at menopause. Join me every Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. UK time on talkradio.nyc for interviews with inspirational women who will share their top tips to rock your world.
Have you ever thought of reinventing yourself? Are you looking to create a new life's journey? Hi, I'm Kevin Barbaro, host of Coffee Talk XL every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc. Tune in live to hear me and my guests from a variety of different backgrounds. As a former college coach and a current full-time actor and owner of multiple companies, my show is as eclectic as my life. That's Coffee Talk XL every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Okay, that's my awesome theme song. Hours, sorry. We are back, and I just want to revisit this one issue for 1 second. We're talking about political intricacies of animal welfare, but regarding shelters, I mean, look, you bring in the experts as opposed to giving out, political favors for important, crucial jobs. I'm not talking about the secretary. I'm talking about the people that interact with the animals. You'll see a world of difference. And I'll give you one example. This woman, young lady, 22 years old, law student from Hofstra. She learned recently, within the last 2 years or so, about TNR and trapping. And she personally did 90 cats and kittens last year. Plus she fosters and helps them get adopted. So if she can, what's one person, and Tommy, you want to talk stats? I mean, look, one female cat can start reproducing as early as 4 to 6 months. And
of age, 4 to 6 months of age?
Correct. And they can have anywhere from 2 to, let's say, 8 kittens. The average litter is probably around 5, but they can have 3 to 4 litters a year. And how many baby girls are they having that it's exponential?
Oh, right. They could have 5 a pop, and then that could happen 3 to 4 times a year.
Yeah, that's one cat.
It's like that could be 20.
That's correct.
Right, and then think about that, okay? Then the 25 cats that they produce, okay, reach an age of six months to a year, and then the cycle goes right.
I don't even know what they shouldn't be saying about rabbits. It sounds like that the whole joke is more about cats.
Seriously.
It is. It really is. It really is, because that's the whole problem with cats in the wild, is if they go unchecked,
right,
they reproduce.
You're going to have a big problem very quickly. I experienced this in my own backyard. There was a mother cat. We tried to trap her. I'm not a very good trapper. We tried to trap her on her own. She had she had 2 kittens that we saw that survived. Who knows? That's another thing. You really don't want, these kittens in your backyard. They're subject to attacks from raccoons. They'll get hit by a car. They hide under your hood in the winters. Anyway,
under the hood.
Yeah. They go into the tailpipes.
Oh,
Yep.
And a lot of them are often killed because somebody turns on the car and they don't know that there's an animal in there.
Yeah, it's horrible. So we want to get them off the streets. We want to solve the problem. And that's that one cat in my backyard ended up getting pregnant again. Then we finally caught her. But during that time that we were trying to catch her, we ended up catching like 12 to 14 other cats and kittens and a raccoon. And it was absurd. My whole neighborhood was, had a problem. But Tina, before we forget, I know you wanted to highlight a couple of different rescues.
Yeah, I mean, the frustrating thing is that it seems so difficult to elevate this into a national conversation.
Yeah.
Curtis Sliwa, if you're listening to this broadcast, you're running for mayor of New York City. I know that you love cats. In fact, I met you at cat camp many years ago. We talked about cats. And we both grew up in Canarsie. So Curtis, we need a big voice. We need a person with a big megaphone. We've screened, we've done about 10 film festivals so far, maybe a dozen. And we did one recently down in New Hope, Pennsylvania. And as always, the audience was filled with, gray-haired people who've been doing this, who understand. There were maybe 30, maybe 40 people that Monday night. But there was one young woman there who was 22. And she was sitting behind my husband, who was in the audience watching the film. And she was weeping through a lot of the film. And when it was over, 22 years old, she said, I'm going to start volunteering in a shelter, an animal shelter. The problem that we have is with this issue is that we have not been able to elevate this into a national conversation. The younger generation, our very woke generation, that is so hell-bent on fixing the problems of the world, this problem's not on their radar. And I would say that what I've learned in the last 5 years is this is the disconnect. Because until we can get a younger generation to do what they do so well, which is make things go viral, make things hip, make things woke, make things important, highlight the things that are important in a way that our generation, we have limited tools compared to that generation.
Why do you think it's not as attractive to younger people? Why have you not been able, and again, this isn't Tina's problem, this is a whole global situation.
Well, young for one thing, okay, so younger people are generally, unless they've got a parent or somebody who they know who's taking care of ferals, they're living at home, they're living at college, they're again, they don't see them.
Right.
They don't see this problem. And it's just not on their radar. And when what they do see are they see cat videos and they see all this cool stuff around
cute
cat
stuff.
Huh?
The cute stuff.
The cute stuff, but they don't see this underbelly. And it's like we need a network of ambassadors, or we need celebrities. I need Ellen DeGeneres, who's also an animal lover, if she's still on TV, I don't know. But you need the big voices to take this as seriously as we do so many other issues.
Yeah, Ricky Gervais. Look, I have a few thoughts on this, and I definitely will sidebar with you on it. But I also, I will say, I really wholeheartedly do believe that if that younger generation did understand and have the awareness, that they would care and they would attempt change as well.
So let me ask you something. Sorry to cut you off because we're running out of time already, gang. I just want to ask you this real quick because I would love to look. You're part of our community now, Tina. This is just one show, one day, but this doesn't go away. So we can always come back to these things and talk and figure out how to fix this. But are there any organizations, either Valerie from your experience on Long Island or in Rockland, that we should call out? Because if I go outside, if I run to the supermarket in my neighborhood and I see a bunch of cats, who do I call?
What do you do?
What do I do?
Okay, so here's the thing. I am going to give a shout out to 3 organizations.
Do 1 minute each because we have to. Sorry, we have to.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to give a shout out to 3 organizations. But the answer to that question is that you have to generally find a local rescue group that's doing TNR to seek help. I want to just give a call out to Calling All Cats Sanctuary down in southern New Jersey, which took the boardwalk cats they took in 60 cats and have given them a life better than they ever could have imagined. I also want to give a shout out to Friends of Felines of Wichita, Kansas, that helped us understand the problem out there in Kansas, and that has been supportive of the film, and that does great work. And I want to give a call, because this is closest to my heart, to a local group here called Four Legs Good, which is an organization that is kind of it started sort of ragtag, but it's really been building itself, and it is so dedicated. And in the case of Four Legs Good is that it is an army of young people who are, ensconced in the animal world, and who have so much dedication and so much grit. And one at a time, 10 at a time, they have been rescuing the ferals. They have been getting fosters for the ferals, and they've been adopting. So it's the whole chain that's needed. You can't have any of these in a vacuum. It's like a necklace.
It's a network. It's a network.
It all has to work together.
Right. So Tommy Demisa, if that ever happens to you, I would recommend TLC. They're located in Long Island, 10 or 11 cats. I could put you also in touch with someone. Actually, I believe one of them is going to be one of our guests coming up. Speaking of coming up guests, next week is wonderful attorney Heather Maltby, located in St. Augustine, Florida. She's a trust and estates lawyer, and she single-handedly fostered throughout COVID over 40 cats and kittens and got them all adopted. She is a diva in this world.
I know we're not going to curse, but that's badass if you ask me, Val.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And I got to meet a couple of them, completely adorable. But anyway, so Tommy and me, so why don't you take us out? And Tina, thank you for everything.
Tina, before we go, Tina, if somebody wants to see the film, find out about the film, where do they go?
Okay, so we're playing on Amazon and Apple and Tubi, bunch of platforms. Visit our site, www.catnipnation.com. You can buy a DVD if you're not one of the first 10 to click, and you can send us a message. And but Amazon, the film's on Amazon.
Thank you, Tina, for being here. Tina, listen, you're part of our community now. Stay with us. Follow Facebook, the whole thing. We'll keep this conversation going. That's what Valerie and I are here to create this platform.
Curtis Sliwa, we need you.
Apparently, Curtis Sliwa, we need you. I need one of those red berets you rock out. So I'll get you. If you get on the show, I get a red beret. That's the deal. All right, listen. Follow us, PALs, Professionals and Animal Lovers Show. Each Wednesday, we're here at 2 p.m. And then follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok coming soon. We got a YouTube page. Just listen. If you're looking for Valerie and I, it's Jovi, Jovi at PAL-show.com. That's a shout out to our boy Jovi. Tina, we appreciate you. We appreciate all the hard work you're doing. And I look forward to connecting again. Val, make it a great day. Everybody, we'll see you soon.
Too.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. Thank you.